Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 13 Developer Beta 4 and Public Beta 3 have been out for probably 5 days or more, depending on when you're watching this, and I've been using it primarily on my iPhone XS Max. I also have it on an iPhone XR, an SE, an iPhone 6s Plus, and also an iPad Air 2 for iPadOS and iPad Pro 12.9. And keep in mind, the public beta, the developer beta, and iOS for iPad or iPadOS is exactly the same across all the devices. There's a few extra features on iPadOS, but it's really a marketing term according to Apple. So iPadOS is essentially the same. So when I talk about the experience, I've had the same experience across all of these devices, thankfully. And when I'm talking about bugs or issues I've had, not just the XS Max, but I'm also referring to the iPhone SE. The experience seems to be the same across all supported devices based on what I've seen from feedback from you and my own experience. Then after we talk about my experience, we'll talk about yours, and then also the community poll comments that you've said. So the first thing is I've had a couple bugs, just 2 bugs really. And the first one has to do with setting a photo or saving a photo. So maybe I wanted to save the background, this wallpaper here. I got it on Twitter. I'll link it in the description as I always do. Maybe I wanted to save it, go to download. Maybe I'll open it like this. View. Sometimes when I view it here, it's black and white and has lines through it. I don't know what that is, but even if I save it here, I can add it to photos and it saves just fine. I keep getting that cellular watch set up. I don't have cellular on this turned on right now, and it keeps prompting me to turn it on. But other than that, that bug is not a huge one. It's just more of an annoyance, but it works fine once you save it to photos. And then the other thing is the Mail app. I've been using the stock Mail app again. I was using Spark, and Spark's okay, but I like the stock Mail app now with its extra features, but it is a little buggy. Sometimes it locks up. Occasionally it will crash. Maybe I want to delete multiple messages. It will crash. So that is definitely an issue for me sometimes. Now, when you have those issues, make sure you report them in the feedback app so that you can actually let Apple know, hey, I'm having this issue, and then Apple can prioritize which ones to fix based on how many issues they're receiving. Other than that, I've had 0 issues, and it has been incredibly fast. Like I showed in my Should You Upgrade video, we'll talk about battery in a moment, but Should You Upgrade video, it's been super smooth, and I'm using the light mode and dark mode auto switch. And I think it's really, really good. It's one of the best betas I've seen in a long time. Apps are opening fast. Everything's really, really good for me. And I've had no issues whatsoever. I find it to be very stable. And if you want to upgrade at this point, I think it's pretty safe. Just keep in mind, you still will have a couple bugs here and there. When it comes to watching YouTube, that was a big issue on the previous beta. YouTube is fine, included on iPadOS as well. I've had no issues whatsoever. It seems to work just fine. I've had no lockups. And if you keep experiencing lockups, you may want to just delete the app and reinstall it because it's really been pretty good for most people. Not everyone, but most people. Now, as far as battery life has been okay for me. It has not been as good as it was a couple days ago for some reason. And you'll see my battery health is 100%. And again, I just show you this to let you know this is the best possible scenario as far as battery. Now, as far as the last 10 days, you'll see it's gone down. The first days were really good with the beta, but then it's gone down. But I've used it differently depending on the day. So depending on what I was doing, I wasn't using it a lot, and I only used about 60% of my battery here and only had 2 hours of my screen on time. So it just depends on the day, what I was doing, where I was. But overall, it's gotten me through a day, and don't expect amazing battery life when it comes to betas because betas can change, and when it comes out in September for everyone, it should be a much better experience. Now, speaking of battery, some people are saying it's poor battery life or has poor battery life. And on the iPad, I've found that that's probably true. On the iPhone, it's hit or miss. On the iPad, battery life has been okay. I mean, you can use it for about 6 hours or so, but you'll still need to plug it in before you would prior to that. So just keep that in mind. And there's also people having issues with Wi-Fi. Now, I haven't experienced this personally. I generally use Eero routers, but Wi-Fi seems to work fine for me, but others are saying they have to re-enter their passwords. They have to reconnect multiple times in order to get it to work. So I haven't had that experience, but I know a lot of you have. Also, as far as apps not working, some people are saying Instagram's not working for them. I haven't had that experience, and others are saying banking apps aren't working for them still. But as far as games, Fortnite, people are saying it's playable, but if you drop out of a game early, sometimes it can crash. Otherwise, it seems to be really, really solid for most people. So, like I said, everything is nice and fast for me, and it's really nice to have a very stable version and not have as many bugs as we had before. Now, if we take a look at the YouTube community poll, like I said, many of you responded. Over 11,000 people voted, so I really appreciate that, and over 200 people commented. So I've read every one of those to compile the list I was talking about earlier. So you'll see 37% of you said it was great. That is much better than before. Only 4% said it was terrible, and 22% said okay, but some bugs. Very few people said a lot of bugs, and 34% of you are using a public version, iOS 12.4, or Android. So that's actually gone down. A lot of people installed this version. So I think that will help with Apple getting a lot of feedback, and that should help the build overall. So if I sort this by oldest first, I went through all of these, and let's read a couple of them and see what you have to say. So we'll read about, I guess, 10 of them or so. So iPhone 10 here, it's miles better than the previous beta. Some weird bugs now and then, but for the most part, it's been great. Battery life has been improved also. I'm having a blast with this update on my XS Max. Feels ready for full public release, LOL. I'm using iOS 6.0.1. That's vintage. I'd love to know what device that's on too. Running iOS 13 Public Beta 3 on iPhone 8 Plus, and it's great. Let's see if we can find some other devices here. It's been great on my iPhone XS Max and my iPad Pro 11-inch, just that YouTube freezing bugs still and split view on web pages freezes up sometimes, but not bad overall. Like I said earlier, try reinstalling YouTube because it seems to be working great for most people. It's great on my iPhone 7. There was a bug where I get a call and the UI wouldn't show up. I rebooted the phone and the same thing happened once again, and then when I received another call, the UI showed up again. So maybe some bugs with the calls. I have a problem with personal hotspot sharing on my iPhone XR that I cannot share to another device. I don't think I've had that issue, thankfully, but maybe try a reboot. That usually restores most of those issues. I hear things like this a lot. Please discuss if the heating issue has been resolved. I'm still on iOS 12.3.1. First of all, there isn't a heating issue per se. It's normal for your processor to get hot when you're using your phone. If you're playing a game, it will get a little bit warmer because the processor has to work harder. Just like in a computer, there's fans and things to keep it cool. In a phone, there isn't, so it's going to get a little bit warmer. However, if it's a problem, the phone will actually tell you that it's overheating. So unless it says you're overheating, I wouldn't worry about that. It's not really anything I would worry about. It does get hot, and if it keeps staying hot for no reason, just try a reboot. And that usually fixes that because it's doing something in the background. On iPhone 7 Plus, it's way better than the first beta. I still don't understand why we have haptic touch features on 3D touch capable phones. That's most likely due to them getting rid of the 3D touch pressure sensitive layer on the next version of iPhones so that they can implement the same features across everything. None of the features are gone with 3D touch. It just responds differently, but some of them are more pressure sensitive, so it just depends what you're doing with it. It's great on my 8 Plus. The only thing is that battery life is a little shorter, and it appears to disconnect from Wi-Fi quite a bit. However, I found that if you turn off the 4G, the issue seems to go away. Not sure if it's just me, but it started after this update. I'm using iPhone SE. iMessage crashes, screen recording issues are resolved, and some app crashes. I haven't had iMessage crash, thankfully. I'm curious to know if it's when you're doing something specific or not. It's been working great on my iPhone XS Max. My Mail app is still not working great, but I can deal with that to gain the perks. iPhone 6s battery life is okay, but Wi-Fi and cellular aren't that good. And let's take a look at two more. iPhone 8, often no service, device gets warm, and battery life sucks. Love this build, fixed all stuttering issues, and improved responsiveness on my iPhone 7. And that is it. I really appreciate anyone that's responded to that. And of course, I'll do follow-ups on future beta releases. But let me know how it's been for you in the comments below. I love to go back and forth and have conversations with you about that. So I'd love to hear what you have to say. And if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description, as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell if you'd like to see more videos like this as soon as they're released. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.